Hey guys, what's up? Today we are doing what if the My Hero characters were there instead of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Like always, George is here.
Hi guys.
Okay, so who I think they would be? I think they would be Midoriya because he's the main character.
Rocky Man.
Because he's the main character. Uh, Uraka because she's the main female character. Todoroki because he's like the most popular character. Then Ida because Ida's like the smart guy, and Billy, and then Momo because I needed another girl, and Ochako and Tanya were both known as like Midoriya's main friend group, and then Shoto and Momo are like the two recommended. So yeah, this would be the original timeline. So the timeline with Jason and all that. But instead of them getting picked, Zordon would take Izuku in that. Okay, so first, I think the first episode when they're all in the command center, I think all of them would take it straight away, except Uraka and Ida. Ida not trusting Zordon because big blue head in tube, kinda suspicious. And Ochako would want money because they're poor as. And then Zordon would say, Uraka will give you something that'll make you money. And Ida, just help your friends. And then the first monster would attack. The putties and Goldar would be there. And then Izuku would. Oh yeah, this is right at the end of season 4. So right before the war. So right now, Izuku hasn't got Black Whip, Danger Sense, any of these quirks. He only has big punchy purple arm. Okay, so they'd all be there to fight, and Izuku almost single-handedly with flicks would just take out most of the putties, whilst Momo changed her hands into the dinosaur hands, which you see on the screen. Todoroki would have a shield because we need a weapon, and then Deku would get the dragon dagger because in this hypothetical, Zordon had the dragon coin.
Nah,
Because
guys, it's just because his hair is green, innit?
on its whole color scheme's green,
Hmm.
but like he'll have the dragon coin in this because he needs to be green. And then Ochako would be pink because she's like pink and white kinda. That's the color scheme I'd give her. And then Ida would be blue because nerd. And they'd fight Goldar and he'd grow huge. They wouldn't even hesitate to fight him. Momo would be like cannonballing him. Shoto would have froze his legs together whilst burning him like around the place. Ida would be punching him really fast. Ochako would be like punching because she can't really gravity him up whilst rocks fall on his head. And Izuku would be flicking him because. And then they'd go on, fight characters, and people would be suspicious of these 5 because no one had ever seen them before. And now they're here, living like nothing's ever changed. Oh yeah, they'd all be homeless. They'd live in the command center. And they'd have to be careful not to accidentally use their quirks because no one in the real world has a quirk. And then what would happen after this is they'd keep fighting monsters with a lot more ease than the actual Mighty Morphin team because the Mighty Morphin team didn't have superpowers until Rita decides enough's enough and called Toga and All for One because psychopath, All for One to give the monsters a quirk on top of their powers. And this would be when we see Putty Pig. He would eat Shoto straight away, just nyom. And then we would see Momo eating like something spicy, and Putty Pig be like, not liking it. So Momo put hot spicy powder all over Ochako and Ida, and they got Ochako and Ida ate. And then whilst he was crying, Izuku and Momo just went and beat him with like what happens when you're naughty. What duff? And then the group was free. Like, they need to be free. And they defeated Putty Pig until he grew big. They killed the big version of Putty Pig. So on and so forth. And then, because Awful was making it harder for them to win, but they were still winning, they decided to get their own ranger, Akatsuki Bakugo. And he would have the Tyrannosaurus Rex powers instead of having the Dragon Sword power. But he'd have the Dragon Chest Plate because that's Rita's mum, not part of the powers. Wait, that means Tommy had a woman on his chest the whole time. Anyway, moving on. Bakugo would be partially under Rita's control. Partially just wanted to prove that he was better than Deku. And it would take Deku and Shoto to beat him in a fight. After a few fights. And this is when they started using the Megazord. Because after Deku almost got murdered, and then they got Bakugo safe with the Red Ranger powers, Rita was like, I'm dead. So she got Lord Zed. Well, she called for her dad. And her dad sent Lord Zed because we all know her dad doesn't love her. Neither does my dad. Anyway, Lord Zed would then send Z putties infused with quirks, which would almost kill these until they find out about the Z plate. And then Tenyo would just run around poking them there to like distract them, and the rest would go hitting them there. And with this, they'd be fighting Lord Zed monsters, and the thunder powers would never be given because Izuku and gang would never have found out about the Megazord because they were just destroying the monsters before. But then Zordon would see they were starting to struggle. So he'd be like, Rangers, we've got you these highly advanced mechanical Zords. And you have two sets. You have the normal Zords and the Thunder Zords. They will fuse together when times are tough. Use them wisely and may the power protect you. And they would start fighting using these like Z powers. Not Z powers, Thunder powers. Which would confuse them because they thought they were doing fine. But they thought whatever. And then we'd have the Freezy monster, like a bit later in the season than he was originally. And this is when Izuku would gain Black Whip, because he'd be taking the rest of his team and Izuku would panic trying to get him. He would send out Black Whip straight at his team, which would unlock Black Whip, and he'd dodge a moving train with danger sense. So he gets both danger sense and black whip in this because plot convenience. And soon they would have almost murdered Lord Zed's whole army. So Lord Zed and Rita both went down to fight the Rangers. And Lord Zed would be infused with a lot of powers. And one after a time, all the monsters would be destroyed. With Lord Zed fighting Izuku and Shoto fighting monsters, Tenya fighting monsters, and Momo fighting monsters. And then Uraka would be fighting Rita until Rito shows up and just burns all the Rangers. Hopefully Shoto doesn't get a second scar. Oh wait, it's not tea. Anyway,
Hold up.
their powers would be broken and damaged because they've just been disintegrated. So now they're going on Ninja Quest Part 1, and they would find Ninja in his library instead of in the tube like normal, because as we know, he's able to come out of his tube to go into his like libraries and stuff. So he'd just be floating and reading like a My Hero manga just as like a reference because haha funny. You know, a My Hero Vigilantes, so they could be like, oh, I read that. Yeah, I have. It's not about me though. And they would say, because they couldn't convince Ninja, they'd say, if we can beat you in a fight, you have to help us. Plus, you have to give us new powers. And they were getting wrecked time after time by Ninja because Ninja would go further than he had before, morphing with like a power coin. Because technically he could do that, we've just never seen him do it. So he'd be time after time just getting them to the ground and just they keep getting up. And at the end, Ninja stops fighting and he just says, and he's just like, you Rangers won't give up, would you? To save this planet that's not even yours. Have the new power coins, the Ninja Ultra powers. These are enhanced via quirks. I found out about you from Zordon. I just needed proof myself. You weren't pathetic losers. Go, Rangers. And they would fight, calling on Ninja sometimes. Not always. And then there'd be the Lipstick Trio, who would steal, like, most of the Rangers. And Akatsuki, Bakugo and Deku would be fighting these monsters. And they could just not win. They called Ninja, the Lipstick ladies destroyed Ninja. And then we would see Akatsuki Bakugo eating Deku's hair. And then because of eating the hair, they both used a powered up one for all Alabama smash on these people. And bam, that would instantly kill them. Not even close. They weren't Technoblade in that situation. And both Deku and Bakugo faint, causing one for all to give all the power back to Deku because plot convenience. They didn't explain it in the movie where that happens either. And then time after time they'd be foiling the plans until Rita's dad's like, son, daughter, minion, you're all terrible. And he would send this device down to Earth to turn back time. And because of this time travel, they would need new Rangers based on the My Heroes Vigilantes characters because they'd be younger. Any thoughts on this story of a replacement of mmPR, George?
It's very, very complicated, but I feel like it'll go well. The only problem is that why would they animate this? Because they don't acknowledge fan ideas. But it is very good because I like how all the story unravels, especially with like Lord Zed and Rita. That's good storyline and plot.
Mm-hmm.
But like Lucas said, guys, never trust a man in a tube. You never know what you can do.
Yeah, if in real life you see a man in a tube trying to give you something, run away. Okay, guys, like and subscribe and go over to George's channel. Goodbye.